Anu Nation is home to the Anu spiritual order founded by Chief Jegna Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Some of the components of Anu Nation are Anu Life Global Ministries, Enlightenment and Transformation, Sadulu House, and Osiris Life Spiritual Services. SaduluHouse.com is the school component of Anu Nation, where spiritual empowerment through education and training is emphasized. One way that is accomplished is through our monthly webinars. Our webinars are packed with foundational information, rituals, and live instruction to empower your spiritual work. At SaduluHouse.com, you can view our diverse list of topics for this year that range from meditation to sex magic. And you can also register for any of the webinars at your convenience. Sign up for our introductory Orisha class, schedule a spiritual reading, and sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Anu Nation. Here, you can view all of our archived shows from over the years to our current segments. They include Chief Speaks, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursdays, and Foundational Fridays. You can also visit us on our YouTube channels. They are Enlightenment and Transformation, Orisha Yoruba, and Anu Nation. Osiris Life Spiritual Services is for those who are ready to take the necessary actions to bring your life into holistic balance. Here we offer consistent monthly one-on-one coaching, solutions that are tailored just for you, practical hands-on self-development techniques that will accompany your monthly readings, and customized practical strategies designed for you that guarantee positive results. Simply choose the package that best fits your needs. And last but not least, AlphaOmegaStore.com. The Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica where we offer divination tools, herbs and incense, DVDs, books, and other hard-to-find ritual items. You can also get our best-selling foundational book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Other great works from Anu Nation are Shrine and Altar, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, and Natural Hair for Young Women. All great books to assist you on your journey. To find out more on how to get involved with Anu Nation, visit our websites and YouTube channels and be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter.
Peace. Good afternoon, everyone. Of course, you are listening to Enlightenment and Transformation. And of course, this is the midday community segment that, of course, many of you are very familiar with. So yes, I'm Chief Yuya, and I want to welcome all of you who are tuning in from the chat room, and those of you who are dialed in, I should say, those of you who are able to dial in via Blog Talk, and all of the other mediums that this experience broadcast on. Of course, anyone who wants to call in and listen via Blog Talk, if you're able to without technical difficulty, you can call in at 515-605-9862. Again, that's 515-605-982. And in order to speak or to be heard, just hit the number 1 on your phone and we'll link you up. So yeah, I just want to dive into it a little bit today because I'm not going to be able to go overtime as much because I have some appointments forthcoming. So today I'm scheduled really, really tight. So I'm going to get right into it. There was something that I wanted to share, or I guess thought about sharing, and didn't some time ago. And primarily because I searched internally for the relevance of it in terms of just, the things that we speak about and whatnot. But the beauty of having the extended time to build, and, you get to kind of travel through an array of different subjects and, really search for the relevancy in each thing that you may come across, in terms of what we're doing or what we typically talk about. Very similar to the clip that I shared, was it Last Strong or Strong Before Last, the grapefruit situation. There was like a clip I came across and felt that it was relevant, but maybe not totally in line with the school of thought that we always tiptoe into. So I came across something else as well that I wanted to share because honestly, when I read it, I had mixed reactions, but not necessarily all at the same time, and I honestly and sincerely wanted to get I wanted to get the feel of other people on this particular posting that I read, and I think I alluded to it in a couple of shows ago. It must have been a Sunday show because I said, yeah, maybe we'll deal with it Monday or Tuesday, but I just never really got around to it because, as you know, I don't really do current events. And a lot of times things that maybe everyone is excited about at the time, I'm not that excited about, or just, a lot of times when you're aware of the patterns, you don't really need to stay on top of every news item because you kind of know what's going on. Like, there's going to be more abductions. There's going to be more police killings. And, you're aware of that. So you don't necessarily run and jump in such a reactionary fashion to every fire or patch of smoke that's sent out into the populace. You don't particularly always run from spot to spot, with your emergency hat on. But this one I found very interesting, and I'll read it and then I'll share why. And I definitely invite you all to share, men and women, on your honest feelings. Well, there was a post that probably a lot of you are familiar with by now, because it's been out for a while, by the artist Tyrese Gibson. And he put a posting via his social media, one of his social media accounts, as well as an image where he expressed some critiques as to how women present themselves in what we could call a manufactured manner. And he got a very, very, very strong backlash as a result. And I'm going to read it, and then I want to hear your thought on it. And he says, I just feel the need to send a message to all the ladies who think dudes are just stupid, question mark, question mark. We know the difference in real hair and fake clip-ons. We know eyelash extensions. We know fake hard titties pointing in 4 directions with your rib showing in the middle, question mark. Why so much separation, question mark. We know when you got little chicken legs and it leads to an oversized hashtag fake ass. You guys are really starting to go too far, capitalized, with manufactured beauty. Fake lips, skinny nose, barely can even breathe through your own nostrils. Sitting across from you and you can't even hide your weave tracks, question mark, question mark. Come on, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just sending a message that us real men see the BS. And if he decide to rock with you, it's just because they want to get one off. No one will ever take you serious like that or really make that move because you look like a manufactured clown. Some of you have convinced yourselves that it's okay because of how many dudes be trying to get at you. Please let me explain. You got your temp fix and you will continue to attract men who only want a temporary fix. Shout out to hashtag Team Natural, hashtag Team Squats, and hashtag Team Take Me As I Am. Hashtag Team Harsh Truth. I had to rip out a chapter from my book, hashtag Menology. Okay, so that was a posting that I saw some time ago. Well, it wasn't that long ago because it's fairly recent, we could say. But in the social media world, things move very quickly. So something that comes out 10 days ago is basically old news now, But I had saw the posting, and like I said, I had a mixed reaction in reading it, and the level of backlash I'm not going to surprise. I'm not going to lie. The level of backlash was very surprising to me. You know, just the and in my opinion, what I felt, most people who responded pretty much anti, you know, his statement. You know, a lot of times when sometimes people come out and they say certain things, there's at least some level of balance. Some agree, some disagree, but pretty much overwhelmingly, people were, you know, pretty much saying we're not going to support Tyrese anymore. We're not going to go to his videos, buy his music, anything he's done. You know, so we're going to completely pull back all support because a couple of even black women writers that I know, they had wrote some articles about even that, and they were saying that, you know, he was just very insultive, and he was bashing black women, and you know, that black women get made fun of enough in this society for him to then also get on the bandwagon as well, you know, in terms of making fun of black women. So there was a lot of that was expressed, you know, and I mean, not just from females, but from males as well. Some also expressed a certain resentment or disdain because of the fact that he's married to someone who is reportedly not 100% black, for whatever that means, but it would be considered to be of mixed heritage. So they felt it a double because when he had married the young lady, he was already getting backlash just off of the fact that he married her. And then to release a statement like this, I guess a lot of women just felt like, okay, enough is enough. Like, you know, it's just too insulting on many different levels. And I have to admit, when I first read it, I agree with everything he had to say. You know, I have to admit. And then, you know, I had to sit back for a second. I thought about it. And then, you know, not only because, you know, when you're reading something or you're learning something, you know, you don't just look at the words, but you have to look at the context as well. You know, so in reading it, I said, okay, yeah, well, he didn't necessarily say anything that I think was false. And he actually didn't say that this was about black women. He said women, period. You know, so he didn't single out, excuse me, or marginalize black women, but you know, that seems to have had that's the group that seems to have had the biggest reaction. So initially, I didn't necessarily feel like the ideas that he was espousing, that those were necessarily incorrect. Because as a man, yeah, I've felt the same way, and you know, in terms of the whole presentation, the look, the desire to kind of be deceptive in terms of your aesthetic, you know, and there's a lot of men who feel the same way. You know, like I've said before, you don't have songs where men are talking about your fake behind or your fake breast or, you know, your weave. Like you listen to any love song, no one's describing how perfect your weave is and, you know, how expensive the hair is and you got a 4-foot long weave and you go girl. Like no one's writing songs like that. So just kind of give you an idea that on a whole, usually as men, we're not necessarily interested in that over the top kind of look. Even though you hear a lot of women say, well, we do it for the men. That's the only reason we do it. But that's really a cop out. Like I said, a lot of times we grow up in a society where it's the black, blame the black guy. Some stolen's the black guy. This is broken, it's the black guy. I bought all this weave and fake breasts, it's the black guy. That's what he wants. Even though he's telling me to my face, I don't want that. I don't like it. I don't like how it looks. We ignore that part. So that was my initial reaction. And then I kind of sat back and looked at it in context and said, you know, how appropriate maybe was it for him to share it in the way that he did, as publicly as he did? You know, maybe that could have been done a little bit differently, especially considering, and again, this is just my perception, you know, and we're speaking about, he was specifically speaking about women. And in that sense, I'm not going to have the total sensitivity to how a woman may have taken those statements. You know, as a man, I only know from this side of the table that, yeah, you know, we've had discussions surrounding that, and no, we don't necessarily like how it looks, and you know, and yeah, it does look, it looks a bit clownish, you know, outside of the distorted racial implications. You know, if you are talking about black women who have a bunch of weave in their hair and fake breast and all of that stuff, and you know, that typical aspiration, that's a whole different subject. But what it made me really think about was the responsibility that we have as people, and men in particular, especially men of note, you know, or men of public and or even international rapport. Sometimes the responsibility that we have to restrain sometimes and control our tongue. You know, finding creative and inventive and intelligent ways to present an idea, knowing that sometimes people will misinterpret your intention, they'll misinterpret your tone, especially, you know, because of how they perceive you, how they look at you. You know, sometimes if someone sees you as being very pious or very righteous, you know, or very spiritual, and you crack a joke, they don't really understand that you're joking. They can't really make the distinction. So you have to be very careful. So I thought about the statement again that was said, you know, like sitting across from you and you couldn't even hide your weave tracks. You know, come on, I'm not trying to, but he said, come on, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just sending a message that us real men see the BS. And if he decides to rock with you just because they want to get off, one off, no one will ever take you serious like that or really make the move because you look like a manufactured clown. Now, that's advice. And in fact, it's very good advice. But through all of the criticism of the statement, I hadn't heard anyone say, well, what he is saying is true, or I'm glad that he decided to give us this kind of guidance or advice, being considering that he is a sex symbol, you know, and just like when Idris Elba said it, Idris Elba said, I only like to date women who wear their own hair, you know, who rock their naturals. So I tend to date women who are from the continent. You know, of course, in the UK, that's a bit easier, but I didn't really see all the backlash, you know, when he said it. But sometimes you have to look at you got to look at the subtle nuances of a statement. You know, this will help you to become a better communicator and to get to know your people a little bit better. You kind of look and say, well, why did one trigger such a strong reaction and the other one didn't? You know, what was the difference there? Why did, you know, because like it's been a huge backlash. A lot of articles done about Tyrese Gibson now and his, as many have said, his white wife. And his wife isn't actually white. Like when he married her, he put a posting up and said, and called her my black queen. You know, I'm married now, I love my black queen. And some took exception to that as well because they said, well, she's not completely black, you know. But interesting enough, I've never heard anyone take exception to that same fact with Vanessa Williams or Halle Berry or Alicia Keys or Bob Marley or Lenny Kravitz or Lisa Bonet, you know, Raven Simone. Well, Raven Simone, maybe we'll throw her out, kick her back out, throw her out. So, but with the other ones I listed, you know, so it was just very interesting that it again caused such a strong reaction. 864, you on the air.
Greetings, Chief.
Peace, brother Pedro.
Yeah, I was just gonna leave a little comment and say, you know, what he said was pretty factual, you know, considering how he stated it. And I feel the only problem is that maybe, you know, mostly who he was describing, they may be the ones who buying his albums. So I feel like, you know, maybe he will lose a little clientele on that end statement like that, knowing that, because I don't know any men that got his album. You know, so
not since Sweet Lady. Yeah, I mean, he's singing for the women. You know, I mean, he's definitely singing for the women. You know, I thought one of the things that I kind of felt might be an issue there, and again, it's something when I see things like that, just as a black man, I pay close attention to because, again, you're learning the psychology of your people and whether he was right or wrong. Because a lot of times you could deliver a correct message the wrong way, and it just doesn't hit its target. You know, and like I said, just similar to you, everything he said, I was like, yeah, he's on point, and he even dropped a couple of really good gems in there when he said, like, you know, you got your temp fix, and now you'll only attract men who want a temporary fix. So like he's giving you some good gems there. So obviously he's showing to some degree that there's some love there, but I don't think anyone took it as that. So the only thing like I said, I thought about was there's a couple things here. The same exact women that he's kind of describing, the team natural, team squats and all of that. You don't necessarily see those same type of women in his art. So when you look at his videos and stuff like that, like I don't know, I don't really watch videos too much, but so I get little glimpses here and there. So if I'm wrong, definitely someone correct me. But I've never seen, you know, a sister with any locks or a fro or braids or, you know, with long soft breasts, you know, or I've never seen that in one of his videos. So the feeling that I kind of got was that you know, it's kind of a brazen statement to make if you're not really presenting the example to those same people that you're speaking about. And perhaps by giving the example, speaking to the positive, affirming what you want, as opposed to affirming what you don't want, would have gotten a better response. That's the only thing I kind of looked at there. Yeah. You know. So
I agree with that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
He know that he know who listens to his music.
Mm-hmm.
He done been at his concert. You know, he got the concerts, all the groupies and stuff, but he know what's up. I know. I guess he plan on changing his career or something. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Sometimes what these guys do, sometimes they try to make certain, like he's writing books and things now, like he has the book Manology. You know, as they grow older, they realize that, you know, their career starts to wane and they have to find other options, other things to do. You find that with a lot of artists, they get to a certain point where the gray hairs come in and now all of a sudden they're conscious. You know, even like you got that corny phrase now, I'm woke, or I'm woke as F-U-C-K. You know, so yeah, he's still woke. We woke. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the thing is, and I've often said, if you come into that space of consciousness, it would be wise for you to gather with people who've already been in those movements, because perhaps if he had a Jegna or a guide who's actually already in the work of cultural reclamation and repairing, you know, some of the damage that's been done to our men and our women, they would have explained to him, listen, you know, you're new to this. You just started talking on this level. You've been singing and just taking off your shirt for the past 15, 20 years. All right. So when you're talking to our people about this, about that, there's a certain way that you have to present it, or your message is not going to really be received. You know, I think perhaps because I know he really cites Will Smith as one of his, you know, I'm going to say mentor. There, I'm going to use the word mentor. But he cites Will Smith as one of his mentors. And I don't necessarily know if Will is particularly conscious on that level, man. So I think sometimes they try to step into an arena because they feel like, well, people are going to listen to me because I'm an artist, and they don't know how to present the message in a way that's really going to be received, man. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I just found it interesting, bro. I just found it, you know, interesting, and it's something I wanted to speak on, and I wanted to get. So those of you sisters in the chat room, you know, either call in or post your thoughts on that, and I'll read it again because, you know, y'all show up whenever y'all feel like it. So I know a lot of y'all came in late. A lot of y'all just showing up. So I'm going to read the statement again from Tyrese Gibson, and I'm going to try to read it faster. It's just that his grammar was so bad. I was kind of struggling through it a little bit, but and I want to hear your perspective on it, your intelligent perspective, you know. So I'm going to read it, but give thanks, Brother Pedro. Just, you know, you can comment whenever you want. Just put your thing on mute so there's no background noise. All right. So again, Tyrese says, I just feel the need to send a message to all of the ladies who think dudes are just stupid, question mark, question mark. We know, capitalize, the difference in real hair and fake clip-ons. We know eyelash extensions. We know fake hard titties pointing in 4 directions with your ribs showing in the middle. Why so much separation? We know when you got little chicken legs and it leads to an oversized hashtag fake ass. You guys are really starting to go too far with manufactured beauty. Fake lips, skinny nose, barely can even breathe through your nostrils, sitting across from you, and you couldn't even hide your weave tracks. Come on, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just sending a message that us real men, capitalize, see the BS, capitalize. And if he decide to rock with you, it's just because they want to get one off. No one will ever take you serious like that or really make that move because you look like a manufactured clown. Some of you have convinced yourself that it's okay because of how many dudes be trying to get at you. Please let me explain. You got your temp fix and you will continue to attract men who only want a temporary fix. Shout out to hashtag Team Natural, hashtag Team Squats, and hashtag Team Take Me As I Am, hashtag Team Harsh Truth. I had to rip out a chapter from my book, hashtag Manology. Okay, so I just reading again for those of you who are coming in a little bit later. What we're speaking about here, I decided to share a posting that I saw that I guess I kind of didn't want to go to waste. You know, when I had read it before, I thought it was interesting. Not necessarily before I even read the responses that other people had shared in regards to it. I thought my own response was interesting because, like I said, when I initially saw it, I first said, okay, yeah, I agree with everything he's saying. And then when I pulled back for a second, before I even read responses, I said, maybe that was irresponsible for him to put it the way that he put it, because he has enough influence and resources by now that he could have paid someone a couple of bucks to write a more intelligent statement, or even did a short film clip. And I know it, maybe that's going over the top, you know, but or maybe just because I'm a bit more sensitive to trying to teach our people things and how sometimes they'll respond to things. And he may not know that, but if you got that kind of influence and resource, he could have did a 5-minute infomercial, and he really had a publicist write it up properly in a way so that, you know, it could have really set in and been received in a certain way, you know. So I had kind of mixed feelings in that sense. And then I saw the backlash and I said, wow, you know, this is kind of interesting. So I'm going to read some of what came up, some of your comments. So Michelle says, my perspective is that truth hurts so much to the female because innately, we know that we need to hear that kind of stuff from our elder women, not our men, to general females. Yeah, and you know what, Michelle, that was actually the feeling that I got a bit, was that perhaps this is not an area that a man should really be speaking. But then, you know, I go back and forth. Well, who else to? Especially if you have so many women who engage in this, and then when you do speak on it, they say, well, that's what y'all want. And they usually say it in the midst of you saying, I don't want this. You know, that's one of the commonalities. You say, no, we don't like it. We don't like how it looks. They'll look at you in the eye and say, yes, you do. That's what y'all want. So you start to realize that, well, then that means you're probably not really doing it for me. You're doing it to be more accepted by what you perceive to be white society, if we're talking about Black women. And of course, he didn't cite Black women in this article. And in fact, a lot of the things that he mentioned could be applied to women of all different races and heritage, from the fake breasts and the fake behinds and, stuff like that. And even the weaves. But obviously, we know Black women tend to go over the top more than anybody else with the weaves. So we don't have to try to skip around that one to be politically correct. But we're seeing this proliferation of the plastic, behinds and breasts all across the board. So he did make it clear that, he's speaking to all ladies. And it was really only Black women who took such great offense, at least publicly, to his statements. And I'm not saying that they were wrong for taking offense. I'm saying that myself and Tyrese, we may not be as sensitive to some of these things and the rhyme and reason as it pertains to Black women or women in general, even if what we're saying is correct. So that's why I was very interested in hearing where the women stand on it. So I'm gonna go to another comment. So Gina Lacey says, truth hurts. And if the shoe fits, wear it. My mother used to say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the aspect that I thought about. Maybe it could have been said differently, but you know what? Like I said, I go back and forth because there's a part of me that feels like, no, he said it the way it needs to be said. Because when you try to say it softly, they don't listen. Like Anwar was on the show one time and expressed that he was like, I don't really like women with all of that and this and that. And then right after that, same women were still like, oh, but that's what y'all want. So it's like, you're not listening. We're telling you we don't want that. But I think, again, when you're dealing with systematic racism, it hides itself within things. So you don't want to admit that, okay, because since when, and let's really look at this honestly. If we're looking at Black women to Black men, if that's what it's about, really. We also have a current epidemic in this society where Black women are very rebellious against the authority and the direction of Black men. So if you don't listen to my authority or direction, now how all of a sudden can you claim that you've changed your entire aesthetic, even down to taking doing invasive surgeries because you want to garner my attention and love? That really doesn't make sense. Yes, that's contradictory. That's really contradictory when we know, I mean, we have a divorce rate in this country. 3 out of 4 people get divorces. 79% of the divorces are initiated by women for nonviolent reasons. So sometimes you got to kind of look at some of the logic, and that's when you see that there's some programming in place here, because some of the responses are very, they're the same across the board. Everybody's saying the same thing in response, almost like there's a program at play here, and him being a man, he's going to communicate different than how a woman would communicate. So just, again, I'm not saying I am saying that I do agree with what he's saying. If he should have said it, if he should have said it publicly in that way, if he should have said it like that, that I think is up for debate. Now Sequoia says, this is exactly why I asked you to mute your phone, Brother Pedro. So let me mute you. And he had all that hiss on the background too. Okay, so let me go to Sister Sequoia. She says, I think more men need to say that. A lot of women, especially the elder women, are in denial about how ridiculous it is to be in mask way too often to cover up so much. Okay. So Sequoia is kind of what I was feeling a little bit too, that maybe that's a job for the women to kind of step in and say, hey, maybe we don't look as great as we think we do. And maybe we're not doing this for the reasons that we say we are. I think that's another piece that sometimes folks are just not as honest about. Folks are just not as honest about, why you're actually doing what you're doing. And maybe maybe it's not appropriate, like, for men to speak on certain things. That's why you notice I'm kind of pulling back on this show. Like, I could speak on this a lot more, but sometimes when you get into certain subjects, you got to be careful about usurping the position of the feminine. Sometimes you got to really be careful about that as men. And even in this situation, and I think when I put it in context with Tyrese, and I say, well, I've never really seen him with a sister you know, maybe who looks a certain way. But again, he wasn't talking to black women per se. It's just black women decided that they wanted to be enraged about what was being said. And a lot of times it is like Sister Gina said, you know, if the shoe fits, you know, sometimes you can ask the most simple of questions and a sister will just go off, you know, because they're so hurt about a particular thing and haven't really been honest about the hurt that they are covering up a lot with their anger and their bitterness towards what it is that you're saying. You know, even the supreme investment in all of that stuff, you know, that look and that aesthetic, the supreme investment in it, and still being single or still getting divorced, you start to understand something about that. I'm gonna go to another comment. Strong Mind, Strong Body Fitness says, I think it's a good start for black men in the industry. We see so much of the praise of that particular cosmetic surgery look and not enough praise for the natural beauty of our women. Okay, I would agree. You know, I would agree. Now, keep in mind that the woman that he married already has the natural aesthetic of what a lot of women aspire towards. You see, like, especially for me working in you know, in the hair industry for so long, owning a barbershop for the amount of years that I did, I remember that was always like a little joke I used to kind of have within myself. Sometimes we'd be in the shop and, you know, we're going back. I had my shop back in the days in the 90s, the era, you know, of the S curl. You know, when a lot of guys were getting S curls, you know, back then. And crazy enough, that phase came back about 5 or 6 years ago. I'm glad it died back out, but all the guys wanted the S curl and the activator. Hold on a second, let me turn something down. This noise is distracting me. Okay, I had my fireplace going, and there was a little like thing of fire there struggling to get going and was making this distracting noise. But yeah, so a lot of times some of those who speak the most about that, you know, like people talk about natural hair, right? Natural hair products and the natural hair look. But if you notice, even if you look on YouTube at a lot of the people speaking the most about natural hair, sometimes they have the curly stuff. They have the widest and longest coils, you know. So and I'm not saying that excludes them from the natural hair camp, because they have a softer, curlier texture, but it definitely is a different struggle, in my opinion. If you have a kinkier and tighter coiled grade of hair, it's a different space, you know, to be speaking from it. I remember in the shop one time I was in it, this older brother, well, I guess he's about the age I am now. No, maybe even a little younger. Oof. But anyway, it was his brother in the shop one time. Another brother was getting an S curl, and I had my shampoo girl washing it out of his hair before I styled him. And he was like, yeah, man, I don't know why you young brothers are messing around getting that stuff in your hair, man. Just be natural. Why can't you just be natural? Now, this guy had hair like, you know, the singer Miguel, you know, or if you don't know who Miguel is, for you older people, Philip Michael Thomas. You know, he had this head of like, he like Billy D. Williams. Like, he had a head of soft, wavy hair. And he's like, yeah, y'all need to just be, man, wear your natural from the way it is. Natural hair the way it is. You know, and it's like, man, you're not really sensitive to what some of these tighter, you know, kinky hair brothers may be going through. Not saying that I'm advocating people to do fake surgeries and stuff like that, but sometimes we're speaking from a place that we really are not informed of, which is one of the reasons why I'm having this conversation with you all. So I'm gonna go to another comment, and Shamika Harris says she agrees. Koya says, at this point, I think it needs to be said more harshly. A lot of women who believe in being your natural, authentic self still support women who cover up due to really being insecure. I would totally agree. I think sometimes there's a subtle and very quiet desire to still assimilate and integrate in that way that we don't speak about a lot of times. I've experienced that myself. A lot of times the clothing that I wear is what one would call cultural. Even in my leisure, it's not just because I'm going to a drum class or, Kwanzaa celebration, but, I wear dashikis and whatnot around the house. And I have made that note to myself, which I thought was very interesting. There's been times that I've been out with like a suit jacket and a button up. And those same sisters who may have seen me dressed in traditional regalia will see me be like, oh, you dressed up today. Oh, you looking nice. You looking good, So, which I always thought was very interesting because you would think you would feel that way more about the other look. But this look makes, it triggers a different kind of thing inside of a person. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Sometimes those of us who are pronouncedly invested in our culture, we still have, those hankerings and those yearnings towards that other look and that other aesthetic. I'm gonna go on to the other comments. I'm gonna just kind of rock the women's comments for a little bit. Jennifer Jackson Higgins says, I agree. I believe what he said was valid. However, there were too many baiting comments within the message, and I was typing. Chief just completed my thought about European standards. Black women aren't being honest with themselves in that regard. Could you expand on that a little bit more, Jennifer? Like in terms of the comments that you felt he was trying to bait them. I don't know if it was clickbait that you're saying or bait them into an argument or discussion. I'm curious as to which ones you felt like maybe might have been over the top or he was baiting them a little bit. And Sister Marva says, I am thinking he should have thought of another intelligent way based on his status, but people ought to learn to take hard and constructive criticism and think about making change. Yeah, that's a huge one. People need to learn about taking hard and constructive criticism. Yeah, when you figure out the secret to get people to do that, you let me know. I would love to know how to deal with that. People are walking with a lot of insecurities. Mountains and mountains of insecurities that a lot of times they're not honest about. And of course, yeah, they use a lot of those things. And what you're really looking at too is insanity. Sometimes we don't look at it that way too. We don't look at again, going back to the psychology, that's what we were speaking about last night. What kind of person would do those type of things to themselves? Cut their chest open and stuff silicone in it, or, put stuff inside their behind. And I don't know if any of you men, or I could even say any of you women, but any of you men have ever been with a woman with false breasts. But yeah, it's weird. They're hard. The nipples don't move. I have, obviously. And I have actually been with women who had cheap breast jobs where you could actually feel the bags, which is another weird sensation. And then those who've had better ones, but all in all, it's still weird. Like I've said before, as things are ready to be used, usually in nature, they're soft. So as a woman matures and she ages and she ripens, her body softens, which gives you an indication a little bit more that she's ready for usage. You pick up a mango or even an apple or avocado, if you pick up an avocado and it's hard as rocks, you probably gonna put it back. It's not ready for usage yet. You want it to be soft and supple. So yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling. And again, that's no diss to anyone who has any cybernetic implants inside of them. But yeah, it's just it's kind of it's a weird thing to deal with. Anwar says, yes, most communication I have with women take excessive measures to quote unquote look good are very short and not complex. Yeah, I know what you mean. You start to learn after a while that most communication with women needs to be short and not complex in general. If you want to have successful communication, that's just the truth of it. Shasha says some females feel like whatever they do, they can't win. Interesting. While some men say they love the natural look, others say they don't. Yeah, but which ones? See, that's the key. Like, who's saying you don't want the natural look? I think that needs to be paid attention to. That's what I brought up on that other show that time when they were talking about it, when they were like, well, y'all say y'all want who? The men y'all are going for, or the males y'all going for, most likely, let's just put it out there, are Negroes. And the truth is, I think a lot of you sisters still really want to be with Negroes. That's what it is. Like, because I don't care if a regular chick says something about consciousness or cracks on a brother wearing dashiki. I don't want her anyway. So she doesn't, let's say if Sierra or Rihanna says, yeah, I don't like guys who, you know, smell like essential oil. I don't want Rihanna. I wouldn't want a wife Rihanna. Well, she break me off some of that bread. But but I think you get the point that I'm saying. She's not in my community, so I don't really care about what she has to say about me. But I think a lot of sisters are still aiming and targeting for those type of guys, to be honest. So they're still trying to appease what they think that aesthetic is. If I'm wrong, you tell me, because again, I'm not a sister. I never tried to look good for a guy. All right, I'm gonna go to some of these calls, and then I'm gonna come back to some of the comments. 662, you're on the air. Come on now, 662. All right.
I'm sorry. Greetings, Steve. I had it on mute. I'm sorry.
What you had it on mute for?
Because I'm by an airport now.
Because you doing something you ain't supposed to be doing.
And just
I know what you out there doing. What's happening, sis? What's your thoughts on Tyrese? I know you already got a crush on Tyrese. So what's your thoughts on what he's talking about? Okay, I got.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
In the extensive weeds and that stuff. So that's who those women are trying to attract.
Who are they trying to attract again? Because my phone got dropped just now.
I'm sorry. They're trying to attract those men who are into the weave and the love and hip hop booties and all that stuff. So that's why they say that. For the women who are not, then I mean sometimes we're looked down upon because we're not wearing the weave and wearing the half naked clothes and face full of makeup. And it's like, why are you not fixing yourself up?
Well, half naked clothes, that's different. So that's now, hold on a minute. Don't try to talk against half naked clothes now. Wait a minute. Now okay, now you're just being offensive. That's something that's different. We talking about weaves. A woman need to be half naked. All right, that's at least in in certain environments, you need that sun on you, sister. You need to get that sun on you, to activate the melanin rhythm that's inside of your epidermal layers. So it's all metaphysics. Nakedness is metaphysics. But let me ask you this question. You said, I'm joking, everybody. So please don't take me serious on that one. But you said that a lot of times women get looked down upon who don't have those things. But who do they get looked down upon? Like who do you think delivers the most criticism? Is it from other women, maybe like older women who might say, you need to do something with yourself, or is it from men who are a part of that kind of culture?
A lot of people, honestly, when I first put my dreads in, which was like about 15 years ago, my daddy was like, you need to get that out your head. I'm like, no, I'm not getting it out my head. He's like, yeah, you need to get a perm. But that's what he's been trained. That's how he's been trained. That's what that we have to conform. He's never invested in looking into his actual cultural identity. So That's him. But I didn't change my hairstyle. And my mom was like, are you gonna like that? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like it.
Yeah.
I mean, even our family members can be like,
yeah, because you're in the South too.
It's too much.
I think it's
Yes,
so I think that makes a huge difference. You know, the South, you know, everything moves just like there was a time, you know, going to the Caribbean, for instance, if you had a tattoo, people would look at you like, you know, you're a criminal. And I mean, I'm just talking maybe 20 years ago, you know, but now certain things are a little bit more acceptable. It's like you go down South, a lot of people got locks now. You know, it's things kind of spreads. Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of the brothers I see down South with locks, especially, you know, if you go even further, like down to Florida, you know, they do the untamed locks down there. But yeah, I've seen a lot of brothers now in the South with locks. You know, the aesthetic is a little bit more accepted, a little bit more. But yeah, I feel what you're saying. Yeah. I think it's about really who you're trying to impress, and like even maybe looking at Tyrese and say, okay, well, is he in my community? Because again, if someone's not conscious, and I'm not saying Tyrese is not conscious, I don't know the brother personally like that, but if a person is not really conscious like that, I don't really care too much what kind of aesthetic they want, because anything that I do or any look that I have, whether I grow a beard, don't grow a beard, have a bald head, have locks, whatever, it's a cultural statement for me. So if you're not a part of that culture, you're not going to understand it anyway. And I wouldn't want to be with you anyway if you're not a part of this culture. So why would I want to impress you? You know? Yeah.
Right. So maybe these women shouldn't have gotten so offended, because if he's not actually coming at them because he don't really know them.
Yeah. Well,
so you know maybe what? They had just determined they're doing what they're doing for themselves. They wouldn't have hurt them so bad that they had to respond like that.
Well, you know, the thing is, even though he didn't specifically call out Black women, what he was saying specifically called out Western or American culture. And, you know, if you have a Willie Lynch chip in you that's still actively working, anybody who says anything against American or Western culture, you're going to have a vehement reaction to it like that, because a lot of the reactions people were saying didn't even make sense based on what he said. It was just emotional rants. Like some people were saying that why is he so concerned about us? He needs to be more concerned about his wife. Like that has nothing to do with what he's saying. You know, like it was just stuff that was totally off the point. Then some people started cracking on the way he looked, calling him a Black mother effer, and you know, he's toasty, and he's dark and crispy. He just mad because he's so dark and crispy. You know, it was stuff that just had nothing to do with what was being said. And I kind of caught that, and I said, you know, this is how a lot of times good information slips through the cracks. You know, because like he was giving some gems there, saying, listen, you're not going to get a husband doing that stuff. You might get a one-off or somebody temporary, but like he said, us real men are not going to take you serious. And I find that across the board, conscious or unconscious. Honestly, the weave and all of that, and I know a lot of you women listening may have them and stuff, but it's not really enjoyable to lay up next to. It makes your nose itch. When you're laying behind a woman who got a weave, it gets all up in your nose and stuff. The smell is a little inhuman. You can't pull her hair, because sometimes, you know, we like to pull hair. Can't really do that. Can't even touch the hair too much. Then you got them weird tracks going on, and that feels weird. So honestly, just in terms of regular horseplay, if we want to call it that, sometimes some of that stuff kind of gets in the way. And like I said, the hard breasts, they look cool, but they don't feel as great as y'all might think. And of course, you're not experiencing it from our side. You're probably more thinking about the aesthetic. And I'm not trying to knock anybody who has any of that stuff. I'm just giving you the man's perspective. And of course, if it's presented in a way that is turning you away from the information, feel free to share how you would like it presented. I would have probably said it the same exact way Tyrese did it. I mean, I thought maybe just the way I am, I probably would have been a little bit more analytical. I probably would have thrown in the race aspect, you know, because some of it did just feel like it felt like he was, you know, he was being a bit facetious. He, you know, he was kind of making fun of people a little bit, but sometimes you have to do that too to wake people up. Just like when we look at guys who have their pants falling down and their behind is out, we'll say certain things, you know, like got your ASS all out, like you want to be FUCKED'd. You know, we'll say something like that, and we're saying it jokingly, but it's to wake them up to how ridiculous they look, sagging their pants with their behind out. I kind of took it in a similar way. We're gonna get ready. I got to get ready to go soon, but I'm gonna try to get one more. In fact, I'm gonna read a comment, and I'm gonna take 615. You on the air? If you come in time, I'll get you. You're probably on mute. You there? I just
yeah.
All right. Peace, brother. What's your comment?
Peace, bro. Man, I was listening at the program. I heard what Tyrese said, bro. And what people gotta stop thinking.
90 seconds.
You know, everything apply to you. So like what he said was his preference, and he kind of told the truth. But when I guess this, I need to just hurry up and write a book about this. But when I see women in the club with fake booties, everything on them fake, and if you see like I don't know what's the proper word for them, sissy or tranny or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at them from behind,
look
the
the same. Yeah.
60 seconds.
And my uncle in Nashville, we was I know who everybody is. I'm checking his ID. Y'all calling him Keisha, but his name is Marcus on his ID. But it's Keisha. So he was like, he had walked in the club, right? He looked like Foxy Brown, except he had the fake body and whatnot. So my uncle was like, damn, she bad, boy, look at that. I said, that's a man, He said, what? He said, man, I ain't gonna lie, man. That's a good looking man. I looked at him, I said, what? He's like, man, I'm sorry, nephew. I was locked up, man. I can't help it.
It is confusing. Yeah, I understand. I've heard brothers in similar situations. I mean, I got some stories on that one, but we don't have time. But
10 seconds.
It is very confusing. All right, so what we're gonna do? I want to continue this conversation because I actually got 2 seconds, and I got someone getting ready to call for reading in about right now, actually. So we're gonna continue this tomorrow. All right. We'll continue this dialogue tomorrow. Dawning. I'll be back at 7 a.m. And please let's get into this deeper. I wish I had more time on this one today to spend with you all. But like I said, I have to do a consultation. The person's probably gonna call in any second. All right. So thank you all for your comments and for your calls. On the